Imagine this. Your phone lights up. It's them again. And before you even open the message, something inside you tightens. Your chest, your jaw, your stomach. You haven't read a single word yet, but you already know, that this conversation will cost you something. Your time, your energy, your peace. And you'll respond anyway. Because that's what you do. Because you're a good person. Because walking away feels cruel. But here's what the ancient Stoics understood. What Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus taught 2,000 years ago. There comes a moment in every person's life when silence becomes louder than words. When staying connected costs more than walking away. When your peace is constantly disturbed. Not by enemies, not by strangers, but by people who once stood close to you. Stoicism teaches us a truth that cuts deep. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Marcus Aurelius wrote that life is short, brutally short, and the only real loss is wasting it on what drains the soul. He wasn't talking about tragedy. He wasn't talking about hardship. He was talking about people, relationships, connections that slowly, quietly, invisibly bleed you dry. Today, I want to walk you through 6 clear Stoic signs, 6 undeniable indicators that it's time to cut all contact with someone. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, not out of pride, but out of self-respect, out of wisdom, out of the deep understanding that protecting your inner peace is not selfish, it's survival. This isn't about punishment. This is about preservation. Because here's the reality. You don't owe anyone access to your life. You don't owe anyone explanations. You don't owe anyone your presence just because they once mattered. Some relationships have an expiration date. And when that date arrives, the Stoic response is not to cling, not to fix, not to suffer endlessly. It's to walk away with dignity. So if you've been questioning yourself, if you've been carrying guilt, if you've been wondering whether it's really that bad, this video is for you. Let's begin. Sign 1. Their presence always disturbs your inner peace. A Stoic measures relationships by one standard and one standard only. Do they strengthen the mind or do they weaken it? This isn't about whether someone is nice. It's not about whether you have history, shared memories, or mutual friends. It's about the effect, the actual measurable effect they have on your mental state. If every interaction leaves you irritated, anxious, mentally exhausted, emotionally depleted, that is not coincidence. That is not bad luck. That is your reason speaking quietly. That is your inner self trying to tell you something you don't want to hear. Epictetus taught that external chaos only harms us when we allow it inside. The world is full of noise, conflict, and disorder. But the Stoic fortress is the mind. And when someone repeatedly brings disorder into your thoughts, into your emotions, into your sense of balance, distance becomes an act of discipline. Let me be clear. Peace is not something you explain. It's not something you defend. It's not something you justify to people who wouldn't understand it anyway. Peace is something you protect, fiercely, without apology. Think about this person right now, the one who came to mind when you clicked this video. How do you feel after spending time with them? After a phone call? After a text exchange? Do you feel lighter, clearer, energized? Or do you feel heavier, confused, drained? Your body knows. Your nervous system knows. That tightness in your chest, that exhaustion that feels like more than just physical tiredness, that's the cost of their presence. And if someone cannot exist in your life without disrupting your calm, the Stoic choice is simple. Remove the disturbance, not your dignity. You don't need to yell. You don't need to explain. You don't need to convince them they're toxic. You simply step back. You create space. You reclaim your peace. Because at the end of the day, a relationship that costs you your inner tranquility is a relationship you cannot afford. Sorry for the interruption. If this resonated with you, please subscribe and comment your once subscribe. Give me motivation. Let's start. Sign 2. They disrespect your boundaries repeatedly. A boundary crossed once may be ignorance. A boundary crossed twice might be carelessness. But a boundary crossed repeatedly? That's intention. That's a statement. That's someone showing you exactly who they are. Stoics believe that self-respect begins where tolerance ends. When someone ignores your limits, your time, your values, your emotional space, your clearly stated needs. They are telling you in the loudest possible way that your boundaries don't matter, that you don't matter, that their convenience, their desires, their comfort is more important than your well-being. Seneca warned that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. He was right about many things, but boundary violations are not imagined. They're not all in your head. They are patterns, observable, repeated, undeniable patterns. Here's what many people don't understand. Explaining yourself again and again only teaches people that your limits are negotiable. That if they push hard enough, long enough, you'll cave. You'll make an exception. You'll tolerate just a little bit more. But silence and distance, those teach a different lesson. They teach that your boundaries are walls, not suggestions. They teach that access to you is a privilege, not a right. Cutting contact is not cruelty. It's clarity. It's you saying without words, I told you where the line was. You crossed it anyway. Now you live on the other side of it. And here's the most important part. You don't need to convince them. You don't need their agreement. You don't need them to understand or validate your boundaries. You just need to enforce them. The Stoic doesn't argue with people who refuse to listen. The Stoic simply removes themselves from the equation, and in doing so, preserves their self-respect. Sign 3. They only appear when they need something. Observe carefully, and I mean carefully, who comes to you in times of gain and who remains during silence. A Stoic watches actions, not words. Words are cheap. Words are easy. Anyone can text, I miss you, or we should catch up. But behavior? Behavior tells the truth. If someone only reaches out when they want attention, help, validation, money, favors, emotional support, a listening ear, a connection, a benefit, they're not connected to you. They're using access to you. There's a difference. And deep down, you know it. Think about the last 5 times they contacted you. What do they want? Were they checking on you? Celebrating something good in your life? Sharing something with no agenda? Or was every message a request? Every call problem? Every interaction transactional? Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, do nothing that is not essential. He was ruthless about his time, his energy, his attention, and he would tell you this. A relationship that exists only for extraction is not essential. It is a distraction. It is a leak in your life force. You are not obligated to remain available to those who disappear when you need nothing and reappear when they need everything. You're not a vending machine. You're not a service provider. You're a human being with limited energy and finite time. And walking away from people who only see you as a resource, that's not bitterness. That's not coldness. That's wisdom matured by experience. The Stoic doesn't hold grudges, but the Stoic also doesn't volunteer to be used. There's a quiet dignity in recognizing a one-sided relationship and simply stepping away. No drama, no announcement, just distance. Sign 4. They trigger the worst version of you. Here's one of the most important Stoic questions you can ever ask yourself. Who am I becoming around this person? Not who are they, not what did they do, but who are you becoming? If someone constantly pulls you into anger, defensiveness, jealousy, pettiness, insecurity, reactivity, they're not neutral to your growth. They're actively working against it. Maybe not intentionally, but the result is the same. Epictetus said that true freedom is self-mastery. Control over your thoughts. Control over your reactions. Control over your emotional state. That's the Stoic ideal. And any relationship that weakens your control over yourself is a hidden chain. It's bondage disguised as connection. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotion. It's not about being cold or robotic. It's about not being ruled by emotion. It's about responding instead of reacting, reflecting instead of exploding. But here's the truth. Some people make self-mastery nearly impossible. They know exactly which buttons to push. They bring out sides of you that you don't recognize, sides you don't like. And after every interaction, you feel shame, regret, confusion about why you acted that way. That's the sign. If being around someone makes you react instead of reflect, if they pull you out of your center, if they destabilize the version of yourself you're working hard to build, it may be time to step away. Not because they're evil, not because they're irredeemable, but because your discipline matters more, your progress matters more, your peace matters more. You cannot grow in soil that's poisoned. And some people, no matter how much history you share, are poison to the person you're becoming. Sign 5. They refuse to take responsibility. A Stoic respects accountability above apology. Anyone can say, "I'm sorry." Anyone can offer empty words. But taking real responsibility, admitting fault, reflecting on their behavior, and actually changing, that's rare. That's character. When someone never admits fault, never reflects, never learns, never grows, they are stagnant. And stagnation is dangerous, not just to them, to everyone around them. Seneca wrote that association shapes character. We become like the people we spend time with. Their habits bleed into ours. Their standards become our standards. Stay long enough with those who avoid responsibility, and you will slowly, imperceptibly, begin justifying what you once rejected. You'll start making excuses for behavior you wouldn't tolerate from anyone else. You'll start lowering your standards. You'll start accepting less. And one day you'll wake up and not recognize the person you've become. Here's the hard truth. You cannot carry someone who refuses to carry themselves. You cannot force growth on someone who doesn't want it. You cannot make someone accountable when they're committed to being the victim. And you shouldn't try. Sometimes the most respectful thing you can do, for both of you, is to remove yourself completely. To let them live in their patterns while you continue evolving in yours. The Stoic doesn't waste energy trying to change people. The Stoic focuses on what they can control. Their own choices, their own growth, their own associations. And if someone refuses to take responsibility for their life, the Stoic takes responsibility for their own by walking away. Imagine this. Your phone lights up. It's them again. And before you even open a message, something inside you tightens. Your chest, your jaw, your stomach. You haven't read a single word yet, but you already know, that this conversation will cost you something. Your time, your energy, your peace. And you'll respond anyway. Because that's what you do. Because you're a good person. Because walking away feels cruel. But here's what the ancient Stoics understood. What Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus taught 2,000 years ago. There comes a moment in every person's life when silence becomes louder than words. When staying connected costs more than walking away. When your peace is constantly disturbed. Not by enemies, not by strangers, but by people who once stood close to you. Stoicism teaches us a truth that cuts deep. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Marcus Aurelius wrote that life is short, brutally short, and the only real loss is wasting it on what drains the soul. He wasn't talking about tragedy. He wasn't talking about hardship. He was talking about people, relationships, connections that slowly, quietly, invisibly bleed you dry. Today, I want to walk you through 6 clear Stoic signs, 6 undeniable indicators that it's time to cut all contact with someone. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, not out of pride, but out of self-respect, out of wisdom, out of the deep understanding that protecting your inner peace is not selfish, it's survival. This isn't about punishment. This is about preservation. Because here's the reality. You don't owe anyone access to your life. You don't owe anyone explanations. You don't owe anyone your presence just because they once mattered. Some relationships have an expiration date. And when that date arrives, the Stoic response is not to cling, not to fix, not to suffer endlessly. It's to walk away with dignity. So if you've been questioning yourself, if you've been carrying guilt, if you've been wondering whether it's really that bad, this video is for you. Let's begin. Cutting all contact is not about erasing someone. It's about reclaiming yourself. Let me say that again. This is not about them. This is about you, about the person you're becoming, about the life you're building, about the peace you're protecting. You can forgive without remaining accessible. You can wish someone well without allowing them close. You can release someone completely without explaining a single word. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that the strongest person is not the one who dominates others, but the one who governs themselves. Self-mastery, self-respect, self-preservation. These are not luxuries. These are necessities. And here's what I want you to understand. If this message resonated with you, sit with it. You don't need to act immediately. Stoic decisions are not rushed. They're not reactive. They are resolved. They're thought through. They are final. But they are also necessary. Because peace is not found by fixing people. Peace is not found by enduring toxicity out of loyalty to the past. Peace is found by choosing, actively, deliberately, who deserves your presence. Some people will call you cold. They'll say you've changed. They'll accuse you of being selfish, unforgiving, heartless. Let them. Their opinions are not your burden. The people who truly matter, the people who respect you, support you, uplift you, they will understand. They will honor your boundaries. They will never make you choose between them and your peace. And the people who don't understand, they're exactly why you need boundaries in the first place. So here's my challenge to you. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the right time. Stop waiting for them to change or for some dramatic final straw. If your peace is disturbed, protect it. If your boundaries are violated, enforce them. If your energy is drained, preserve it. You are not responsible for other people's feelings about your boundaries. You are only responsible for having them. Walk away when you need to, silently if necessary, completely if required, and never apologize for choosing yourself. This is Stoicism. This is wisdom. This is strength. Choose peace. Choose yourself.